All right, so today let's dive into something pretty cool. The power of, turning ideas into action.
That's good.
We're going to be exploring 20 Levers of Execution by Lee Min-kyu.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of this one?
I have. I've heard of this one.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
He's a Korean psychologist who's known for his really practical approach to, getting things done.
Yeah.
His 1% action psychology philosophy really resonated with me. It's the idea that even tiny changes can make a huge impact.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I think it's a really powerful concept. It reminds us that we don't have to wait for that big moment of inspiration to start making progress. It's about, those little consistent steps that you take and then over time lead to big results.
Like that compound effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what this book is all about, providing us with those tools and strategies to bridge that gap between thinking and doing.
And Feng Yanzu, the translator, has done a great job of making these ideas really accessible to a wider audience.
Yeah.
The book is structured in 3 parts: decision, action, and maintenance.
Okay.
Almost like a step-by-step guide.
Yeah.
One of the first things that struck me was Lee Min-kyu's take on willpower.
Oh, yeah.
He completely debunks this myth that execution is all about willpower.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it's refreshing
Yeah.
to see a psychologist who acknowledges that willpower is a limited resource.
It is.
It really is.
It is.
We can't just, white knuckle our way through life.
Yeah, you can't just grit your teeth and
You're going to burn out.
Yeah.
You're going to burn out.
Yeah.
You need other tools and strategies to be effective.
Absolutely. And he emphasizes that, execution is a skill.
Right.
Something that you can learn and improve through practice.
Exactly like anything else.
Yeah. I was fascinated by the story he shares about Scott Peck. Yeah.
The psychiatrist,
Right.
his neighbor, who effortlessly fixes a lawnmower, a task that Peck himself struggles with. And the neighbor just replies, "That's because you haven't spent the time doing it."
I love that.
I love that quote.
Yeah.
It really highlights how even practical skills like execution can be developed. So if you're listening and you're someone who feels stuck, maybe it's not about lacking willpower, but about finding the right tools and techniques.
Absolutely. And the book offers a toolbox full of strategies.
Yeah.
One that really intrigued me was this idea of pathway seeking.
Okay.
We often hear the advice about visualizing success.
Right.
Picturing ourselves achieving the desired outcome. But Lee Min-kyu argues that simply visualizing the end goal isn't enough.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's not just about imagining yourself crossing the finish line.
Right.
What should we be doing instead?
Well, he suggests that we shift our focus to the path.
Okay.
The steps that it takes to get there.
Yeah. It's like planning a trip.
Okay.
Visualizing yourself lounging on a beach
Yeah.
won't magically transport you there.
Right.
You need to map a detailed itinerary to guide your journey.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So instead of just daydreaming about that promotion,
Right.
I should be thinking about the specific skills that I need to develop, the projects I need to excel in, the relationships I need to cultivate
Absolutely.
to make that promotion a reality.
That's it. Exactly.
Why, yeah.
He calls this process-oriented visualization.
Okay.
And it's actually backed by research.
Oh, wow.
Psychologist Leon Pham found that students who only visualized exam success
Wow.
actually studied less and got lower grades
Really?
because they felt like they'd already achieved it.
Wow.
It's about focusing on the how,
Yeah.
not just the what.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And the book suggests taking inspiration from successful people in your field.
Oh, okay.
Figure out what they did, their journey, and create your own career roadmap, so to speak, to emulate their success.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a strategy I can get behind. So no more just dreaming about the destinations.
Right.
Time to map out the journey.
Yes.
Step by step.
That's it.
And speaking of planning,
Okay.
the book introduces this interesting concept called backcasting or backwards scheduling.
Okay.
It's a different way of approaching goal setting, isn't it?
It is. Instead of planning from the present to the future,
Okay.
we start with the desired outcome
Okay.
and work backwards,
Yeah.
figuring out the steps needed to get there.
Okay.
It's like reverse engineering your success.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so instead of saying I want to write a book,
Right.
I'd start by asking,
Yeah.
okay, if the book is finished and published,
Right.
what needs to happen right before that?
Exactly.
Editing.
Yeah.
And before editing, writing the final draft?
That's it.
And like so on and so forth.
Exactly. Break it down.
Yeah.
Break it down.
It forces you to think through the entire process, breaking down a seemingly daunting goal into smaller, more manageable steps.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Think of it like those two individuals planning for retirement.
Okay.
One just relies on simply saving, while the other uses backcasting to calculate their needs and create a concrete plan based on that final goal.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. It sounds like a really powerful way to gain clarity and avoid feeling overwhelmed by a big goal.
Right.
And the book mentions Dr. Ryu Tae-young, who's a key figure in Korea's New Village movement.
Interesting.
Using this method to plan his entire career trajectory.
Wow.
So it's been proven effective in real-world scenarios.
Yes, for sure.
But of course, no matter how well we plan, life always throws us curveballs, right?
Always throws us curveballs, yes.
Yeah.
That's part of life.
That is part of life. And that's where the book's emphasis on having a plan B comes in. Right.
It's about acknowledging that things won't always go as planned.
Yeah.
And being prepared for the unexpected.
Yeah. Have a contingency plan.
Yeah.
You got to have a contingency.
It's like that analogy of defensive driving.
Yes.
You're not expecting to get into an accident.
Right.
But you're prepared to react.
Yeah.
If something unexpected happens.
Exactly. You got to be ready.
Yeah. And that story about Mullah Nasruddin searching for his keys under a lamppost because it's brighter here.
Yeah, classic.
Even though he lost them elsewhere.
Right, of course.
Really drives the point home.
Yeah, we've all been there.
We've all had those like lamppost moments, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So the takeaway here is think about potential obstacles in advance and have a backup plan ready.
Yes. Be prepared.
Yeah.
That's it.
Be prepared.
Be prepared. That's a good Boy Scout motto, right?
It is. It is.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Always be prepared.
Always be prepared. Welcome back to our deep dive into Lehman Q's 20 levers of execution.
Okay, great.
We're moving on now from the decision phase to the action phase where, those carefully laid plans start to, take shape.
I'm ready to shift gears from planning to doing.
Yes.
What are some of the key strategies that Lehman Q highlights?
Well, one that we touched on before, but he goes into it a lot more, is behavioral momentum.
Okay.
He delves deeper into the psychology behind, starting small and how those small wins can create a ripple effect over time, building momentum and motivation for larger tasks.
I can see how that could be applied to breaking a bad habit. Like you start by focusing on the smallest possible change. And then as you experience success, you gain the confidence and momentum to tackle bigger challenges.
Exactly.
But how do you stay motivated when those initial wins start to feel less exciting,
Right. So that's a great question. And Lehman Q offers a very powerful technique to address this.
Okay.
He calls it the sudden technique.
Okay.
And it's about training ourselves to act decisively.
Okay.
To break free from those patterns of hesitation and procrastination.
So instead of hitting the snooze button 5 times,
I
should just suddenly jump out of bed when the alarm goes off?
Exactly. It's about interrupting those automatic thought patterns that lead to inaction.
Okay.
And this is something you can apply to any area of your life. Feeling overwhelmed by a project, just suddenly start working on it, even if it's for 5 minutes.
Okay.
You'll be amazed at how that initial action can break the inertia and spark motivation.
I'm starting to see a recurring theme here.
Yeah.
Action precedes motivation.
Exactly.
Not the other way around.
That's right. And Lee Min-kyu backs this up with research showing how taking even small actions can shift our energy and create a sense of momentum.
Interesting.
He also reminds us that we're social creatures. We're influenced by the behavior of those around us.
Right.
If you're trying to adopt a new habit, surrounding yourself with people who are already doing it can make a huge difference.
Oh, that's a good point.
We're far more likely to follow through when we see others succeeding.
So it's like that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Right.
But Lee Min-kyu would probably argue that if that horse sees a bunch of other horses happily drinking, it's more likely to take a sip too.
That's right. It's about harnessing the power of social influence.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's about creating an environment that supports our goals.
Exactly.
I like that. And that brings us to another powerful concept, behavioral momentum.
Yes.
This time, we're focusing on how to strategically sequence our actions to build momentum.
Yes.
I remember you mentioned this earlier.
I did.
Do you have a specific example that comes to mind?
Let's say your goal is to write a novel.
Okay.
Instead of overwhelming yourself with the enormity of the task, break it down into smaller, manageable steps. Maybe start by committing to writing for just 15 minutes each day. As you build consistency, you can gradually increase the duration.
Okay.
It's about creating a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
Where each small win fuels the motivation for the next.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this applies to any goal, really.
Right.
Want to exercise more? Start with a 10-minute walk. Want to eat healthier? Swap out one sugary drink for water each day.
Okay.
It's about setting yourself up for success by focusing on what's achievable right now.
I love the idea of using small wins to build momentum.
Yeah.
It feels so much more empowering.
It is.
Than trying to force ourselves to make drastic changes overnight.
Right.
And speaking of empowering strategies, I'm curious to hear more about Lehman Q's take on public commitment.
He's a big advocate for leveraging the power of social accountability.
Okay.
When we publicly announce our intentions, we're far more likely to follow through.
Okay.
And he suggests getting creative with it. Share your goals on social media. Join a support group. Find an accountability partner.
Okay.
The more visible your commitment, the more likely you are to stay on track.
That's so interesting. I wonder, what's going on there psychologically. Is it about external validation, like the fear of letting others down?
It's probably a combination of factors. There's a sense of responsibility that comes with making a public declaration.
Okay.
We want to live up to our word to avoid being seen as inconsistent or unreliable.
Right.
But there's also an element of social support.
Okay.
When we share our goals with others, we're inviting them to encourage and support us along the way.
Yeah.
And that can make a huge difference, especially when we encounter challenges or, feel our motivation waning.
So we're essentially creating a system of support both internally through our own actions and externally through the people we share our goals with.
That's right.
And it's all about making it easier to choose those behaviors that align with our desired outcomes.
Exactly. And speaking of aligning our actions with our desired outcomes.
Yes.
Lehman Q introduces a fascinating concept called thinking about the after.
Oh, okay, that sounds intriguing.
It's about recognizing that achieving a goal isn't an endpoint, but rather a stepping stone to something else. Instead of just focusing on crossing the finish line, we need to consider what happens after we achieve our goal.
Okay.
How will that achievement impact our lives? What new opportunities will it open up?
So if my goal is to run a marathon, I shouldn't just stop there.
Exactly.
I should think about what I'll do next.
Yeah.
Maybe sign up for an ultra marathon or use my experience to coach others.
That's it. That's a great example.
Yeah.
It's about creating a bigger picture for ourselves.
Yeah.
A sense of purpose that extends beyond the immediate goal.
I like that.
And the book shares how this was a key strategy for Thomas Edison.
Oh, wow.
Whenever he felt discouraged during the arduous process of inventing the light bulb, he would remind himself of all the amazing things that would be possible.
Wow.
Once his invention came to life.
So it's a powerful reminder that even the most brilliant minds need strategies to stay motivated.
They do. They do. And it highlights the importance of understanding the psychology of motivation.
Right.
We're not robots.
Yeah.
We need a sense of purpose, a vision of the future to fuel our efforts.
And thinking about the after can provide that fuel.
Yes.
It connects our actions to a larger purpose, making the journey more meaningful.
Absolutely.
But we have to be realistic, right?
Of course.
Execution isn't always easy. There will be setbacks, challenges, moments when we feel like giving up.
Absolutely. And that's where self-compassion comes in.
Okay.
Lehman Q emphasizes the importance of treating ourselves with kindness, of acknowledging that we're not perfect, that we'll make mistakes along the way.
It's about having a growth mindset, right?
It's about
viewing challenges as opportunities for learning, not as personal failure.
Precisely. And the book offers practical tips for cultivating self-compassion.
Okay.
Keep a journal to track your progress and reflect on your experiences. Celebrate your wins, both big and small, and surround yourself with a supportive community that understands the ups and downs of the journey.
So it's about creating a system of support, both internally and externally, that allows us to navigate the inevitable challenges and setbacks with grace and resilience.
And with that in mind, I think we're ready to move on to the final phase of Lehman-Q's framework.
Okay.
Maintenance.
All right.
This is where we discover how to solidify those hard-won gains
and
make execution a sustainable part of our lives.
Okay, so we've made it to the final phase of Lehman-Q's framework, maintenance. This is where we, try to figure out how to make those changes stick, to go from like bursts of action to lasting transformation.
Exactly.
What I'm curious about is, how do we avoid those classic pitfalls, like New Year's resolutions that fizzle out by February?
Right.
How do we maintain momentum, especially when motivation starts to, go away a bit?
It's a challenge we all face. And what I appreciate about Lehman-Q's approach is that he doesn't offer like some quick fix or a magic formula.
Right.
Instead, he emphasizes that the maintenance phase is about cultivating the right mindset and building supportive structures to reinforce those desired actions.
So it's about creating an environment that makes it easier to stay on track.
Exactly.
Even when we're not feeling super motivated.
Yeah.
I like that. What are some of the key elements of this supportive structure?
Well, one of the most important is shifting our focus from setting goals to creating systems.
Okay.
Goals provide direction.
Right.
But without a solid system in place, it's easy to get sidetracked.
That makes sense. It's like having a GPS but no car.
Yeah.
You know where you want to go.
Right.
But you don't have the means to get there.
Right. You're stuck.
Yeah.
You need that vehicle.
Yeah. So what kind of systems does Lehman-Q recommend?
Well, he offers a wide range of practical strategies, from setting up reminders, using visual cues, creating structured routines. He even talks about the importance of designing our physical environments to support our goals.
Oh, so if I want to read more, I can make sure there's always a book like on my bedside table.
Exactly.
Or if I'm trying to cut back on sugar, I could remove all the, tempting treats from my pantry.
That's it. It's about making those desired actions the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And he gives a fascinating example.
Okay.
He was working with a client who wanted to exercise more consistently. Instead of relying solely on willpower, they decided to make a small change to their environment. They moved their treadmill from a dark corner of the basement to a bright, inviting spot in their living room right in front of the TV.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did it work?
It did. Suddenly, exercising became more appealing. Instead of dreading a workout, they found themselves hopping on the treadmill while watching their favorite shows.
Wow.
And those small, consistent actions eventually led to significant results.
It's amazing how these really subtle shifts can make such a big difference.
It is.
It reminds us that we're not always rational creatures, driven by logic and willpower.
Yeah.
Our environment plays a huge role in shaping our choices.
It does.
Yeah. And speaking of shaping our choices, Lehman-Q introduces another cool concept in this phase.
Yes.
Reward substitution.
Yes.
It's about understanding how to create a system of rewards that aligns with our long-term goals, even when those goals require us to delay gratification.
That's a big one.
Yeah, because our brains are wired for instant gratification. But so many worthwhile goals, like saving for retirement or writing a book, require consistent effort over an extended period of time.
Exactly.
And that's where we often stumble. We get discouraged because we're not seeing those immediate results.
Right.
But Lehman-Q suggests that we can actually rewire our brains to prioritize long-term rewards by creating a system of substitute rewards that offer immediate gratification while still aligning with our goals.
Exactly.
Okay, so can you give me a concrete example of how this works?
Let's say you're trying to cut back on spending.
Okay.
Instead of completely depriving yourself of all the little things that you enjoy, you could create a reward jar.
Okay.
Put a small amount of money in it every time you resist an impulse purchase.
Okay.
And then when you reach a certain amount, you could treat yourself to something special that's still aligned with your overall savings goal.
Okay.
Like a weekend getaway or a next dinner out.
Oh, I see. So instead of focusing on the immediate gratification of buying that new pair of shoes, I'm focusing on the delayed gratification of that future vacation.
Exactly.
Which is a much bigger and more meaningful reward.
That's it. And by associating positive emotions with the process of saving money, you're training your brain to see it as less of a sacrifice,
Yeah.
and more of a pathway to something enjoyable.
It's brilliant. It's like hacking our own reward system.
It is.
Yeah.
And he emphasizes that it's important to track our progress and celebrate our wins, both big and small.
Yeah.
You know, it might seem insignificant,
right,
but those little acknowledgments can go a long way in reinforcing our commitment, making the journey more enjoyable.
It's like giving ourselves those gold stars we used to get in elementary school.
Exactly.
They might seem silly,
Yeah.
but they really do make a difference.
They do. And in a way, that's what the maintenance phase is all about.
Yeah.
Creating a system of positive reinforcement that keeps us engaged and motivated over the long haul. It's about recognizing that we're not perfect.
Right.
That we'll have setbacks.
Yeah.
But that those setbacks don't define us.
Right.
It's about getting back on track, celebrating our progress.
Yeah.
And continuing to move forward one step at a time.
This has been a really insightful deep dive into the world of execution.
It has.
You know, we've explored so many practical strategies for not only getting started, but also staying consistent and making those changes last.
Yeah.
Is there one final takeaway you want to leave our listeners with today?
Yes. Remember that execution is not a mystical talent, but a skill that can be learned and honed with the right tools and mindset.
Yeah.
And as Lehman Q so eloquently puts it in the final chapter,
okay.
Even if no one knows, what would you do with excellence?
Wow.
Let that question guide your actions.
What a powerful thought to leave us with.
Yeah.
It's about pursuing excellence not for external validation, but for the intrinsic satisfaction of doing our best.
Exactly.
Of living a life that aligns with our values.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on this incredible journey.
It's been my pleasure.
For 20 levers of execution.
I hope our listeners feel empowered to put these insights into action.
Yeah.
And create the lives they envision.
And until next time, keep diving deep.